Welcome to the Called and Courageous Christian Woman, the podcast where we have meaningful conversation rooted in truth as told by Scripture and learn actionable steps to pursue a peace-filled, purpose-driven, unapologetically courageous life. I'm Britton George, and each week I'll be bringing you powerful conversations, inspiring stories, and biblical wisdom to help you embrace your divine purpose, stand boldly in your faith, and live a kingdom-building life that reflects the courage and strength God has instilled in you. If you're ready to be empowered, uplifted, and encouraged as you pursue the life you were created for, then you're in the right place. Let's dive in, friend. Hey mama, this one is for you. Before we jump into today's episode, I want to share a special I'm running just for the moms out there. This Mother's Day, which is coming up May 11th, I want you to give yourself the gift of peace. I'm a mom myself, so I know that you pour out so much for everyone else, and now you deserve to be poured into. You've been doing all of the things, holding it all together for all of the people, chasing perfection, keeping everyone else afloat. But if you're honest, you might be running on empty. This Mother's Day, I want you to press pause on the hustle and say yes to something for you. My 8-week Peace Pursuit course is launching May 11th on Mother's Day in the evening. This is going to be a grace-filled, God-centered journey to help you go from frazzled to faith-filled and panic to purpose, from burnout to boldness and control to Christ-centered calm. Because you deserve to be celebrated, I am offering a special Mother's Day price just for you. This is $100 off, over a 25% savings. All you need to do is pop in the code MOMSDAY, one word, MOMSDAY, at the checkout and treat yourself to the peace you've been craving. We will be doing a group course that's 8 weeks long. You get to work with me in a live course. This is not pre-recorded. This is real time. This is a community of women, and it's really just a way for you to stop pouring from an empty cup. Let this be your moment to finally refill. Click the link in the episode description. Make sure you save your $100 by using that code MOMSDAY, and I will see you in the 8-week Peace Pursuit on May 11th. Welcome back to another episode of the Called and Courageous Christian Woman. This is episode number 2. I'm your host, Britton George, and I'm so glad you're here today as we dive into something that can be both challenging and freeing all at the same time, and that is surrender. Now, I know that word surrender makes some of us uncomfortable. If you're anything like me, you thrive off of having a sense of control. But let me get real with you, sis. That control is an illusion. While surrender can feel counterintuitive for those of us looking for peace, let me explain why it's actually the best way to gain peace. And I learned this myself the hard way by doing all of the things we're going to talk about throughout this podcast. So bear with me. I promise you I've been there, I know what you're going through, and I have the answers. So just hear me out. When we're trying to rely on our own sense of control, maybe our own understanding or our own logic, reasoning, we're doing just that. We're relying on ourselves. And while we may not like to admit it, we're really not all that reliable. I know. Ouch. We'll dive more into it in a minute. Am I hurting your feelings? Are you feeling attacked or triggered? This might be for you. We are often taught and encouraged to be strong and independent and resilient. And while there's nothing wrong with having strength and determination, there's something even more powerful that we as women of faith are called to do. And that is surrendering our lives to God, which in itself is a brave and courageous thing to do. In today's episode, we're going to explore what true surrender looks like for Christian women in the modern world. And we're going to look at surrender from a biblical context and discuss why it's so, so important. I'm also going to share a little bit of my testimony, which comes directly from a place of needing to learn to surrender to God, but having absolutely no idea how to do that. We'll talk about how surrender doesn't mean weakness or giving up, but rather it's an act of trust and obedience that brings true peace and freedom. And let's be real, who doesn't want more peace or freedom in their life? Okay, so let's jump right into talking about what surrender really means. When we think of surrender, we often think of giving up or losing control. We might think that by surrendering, we're losing our identity or our goals or our desires. But when we choose to surrender our lives to God, it's not about losing ourselves. It's about finding ourselves in Him. The truth is, when we surrender, we're saying to God, I trust you more than I trust my own plans. We're letting go of the need to control every aspect of our lives and instead opening ourselves up to God's perfect plan, which is far greater than anything you could dream up on your own, I promise. So let's explore this in biblical context. So in Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 through 6, it says, Trust in the Lord with all of your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all of your ways submit to Him, and He will make your paths straight. So what does this mean? Let's break it down line by line. Trust in the Lord with all of your heart. Now, through some research, I found that when you look at the Hebrew word for heart, we know that it's actually referring to our entire inner self. It's our mind and our soul. It's what we feel and think and understand. It's truly our entire conscience. That is our biblical heart, if we look at the Hebrew word. Proverbs is telling us to set our mind and our will, our heart, our soul, and our understanding, and put those at rest in God's love and His divine will and purpose. So we're putting our entire conscience, our entire selves, into trusting Him. Lean not on your own understanding. So we really just need to recognize what I think is a pretty basic truth, but I think we have a hard time understanding it as truth. We are humans, and as humans, our perspective is limited. I love diving into the history of the Bible and the linguistics of the Bible and the manuscripts of the Bible and all kind of these sciences on the Bible, right? I think it's super interesting. However, I think where people get carried away is constantly trying to understand and rationalize and reason how God works. Okay? God, as we believe, has infinite and all-knowing perspective. Our minds are finite. Okay? They're shaped by time and our experiences and our emotions, which makes it hard to ever fully comprehend things beyond our understanding. Trusting in God's wisdom is about recognizing that. Even if we can't fully see why things are happening the way they are, there's a bigger picture or plan in motion that we can't always grasp, right? We're not divine beings. We can't understand God's divine design and the hows and whys and ins and outs of how He does things. We need to practice humility and realize this truth. We don't have divine conscience or understanding. And that's where that faith comes in, right? But to me, I've always been confused on why people think we would be able to understand and grasp God's perfect wisdom. We just can't, because we're not God. The next line says, "In all your ways submit to Him." Meaning, let go of your need to control everything. I know, this is a hard one. This is very hard for me, guys. This is something I have to be mindful of every single day. I get a false sense of peace by feeling like I'm in control. Okay, the thing is, once I feel like I'm not in control, that sense of peace goes straight out the window because I'm relying on myself. And life is messy, and I don't always make the right decisions, and I can't actually control everything. So when we let go of our need to control everything, we're trusting that God knows what is best for us. When you let go of your false sense of control, you're trusting that God knows what is best for you. This is where true peace begins. When we choose to trust God more than our own understanding of the situation. When you surrender to God in this way, you're letting go of the need to always have everything figured out and always being the one to have things under control. It's actually very freeing. You're accepting that there's peace and trusting His plan, even if you don't understand it. And you're taking pressure off of yourself. You're placing your faith in God that He's already got a plan for it all. I don't need to be in control because He is. And the final line says, He will make your paths straight. So when you submit to God, you're essentially saying, I trust you and I'm okay with following where you lead me, even if you don't know where that is or where you're going. God then has the room to keep you on the path He has laid out for you because of your obedience and faith. So we can kind of think of this like a GPS system in your car. Okay, so it's like when you're driving and you're trusting your GPS to lead you, and then maybe it takes you like down a different route that you weren't expecting. We don't know every turn ahead of time. We just trust the direction it's sending us. Okay, but then when it sends us on a different route, that might be because the GPS knows there's a crash ahead, or the road is closed, or there's inclement weather, even if we don't know that. And we just trust in that GPS and that computer to know the path of least resistance, really, which is what we want to give to God. God might take us on a route or down a path that we don't anticipate, or we might not understand the why behind it, but clearly way more than a GPS. In God, our destination is secure. We just need to surrender to where He's leading us. So there's some biblical principle if we look at that passage, but why is that surrender important? Why does God want us to surrender to Him? Okay, it's not a control thing. It's not about following a rule. It's really about that in surrendering, that's where true peace begins. When we choose to put our trust in God more than in ourselves or our own understanding of the situation. Because like we've said, we have finite knowledge. We don't understand the intricacies of how everything is working together for our good. When we practice surrender, we trust in God to be a perfect leader, to be our greatest security, and to be our provider. We are not relying on our flawed perspectives, but instead we're leaning into faith and trusting in His ultimate and perfect wisdom. And having the humility to know God knows better than I do, because God knows more than I do. So all of this is not to say that surrender isn't hard, right? It's not easy to feel like you're letting go of your plans or goals or relationships or dreams. And sometimes handing over control to God can create a fear of what happens next. We might wonder, what if it doesn't turn out the way I wanted it to, or the way I hope it does, or what if God's plan doesn't align with what I think my plan is? What if God asks me to do something I don't want to do? There's a really fun one if you haven't been there yet. You will experience these things once you surrender. But I can also promise you God is going to open some big doors that you would have never anticipated or hoped or dreamed for yourself. So that's the beautiful part about surrendering to God. When we surrender, we're not just letting go of our control, but we're opening our hands to God's best for us. And guess what? His plans are so much better than anything we can even imagine right now. That's where true peace comes in. Knowing like, okay, God, I'm just going to trust you. I don't know what this is going to look like. I don't know exactly where you're leading me, but I'm just going to lean in and I'm going to go on this path you're guiding me down. And I am going to have total faith that where you are leading me is going to work together for my good in a way that I can't even hope, dream, or imagine right now. I do want to share a little bit of my own testimony of surrender because this is really where God transformed my life. When I was able to surrender, I was able to actually leave room for God's best. So back in 2018, my husband and I moved to Idaho with 2 of my kids from my previous marriage. Quickly after that, I was pregnant with my 3rd son, and then COVID hit. And on top of that, my husband had broken his foot. So we kind of went from having lots of friends, really good social circle. My husband was doing MMA and jiu-jitsu and super active, to now being pretty isolated in a brand new state, not having a lot of support, then him being injured and not able to go to the gym and be active like he normally would. And then lockdown happened, right? And we weren't allowed to even try to build a social circle or really even get out of the house. So in that, a really deep depression took hold of him, and I was kind of watching him like lose control before my eyes, and just start trying to fix himself in ways that were actually counterproductive. So drinking too much, staying up really late, not having a good sleep schedule, not taking care of himself physically, and really just not feeling like himself. And so then over the next couple of years, I just really saw us going down this path that was not where either of us wanted our lives to be at that point. And I was just trying so hard to tell him all of the things, to give him all of the answers. Like, just don't drink so much, just go to bed earlier, just drink more water, just go to the gym, go join a rec league, make some friends. I had all these answers, but what I was actually doing was suffocating him and trying to control things that were not in my control. And it got really dark, and it got really ugly, and I felt very isolated, and I know he did too. And so finally one day at church, I just went up to the altar and I broke down, and you can read about this in my book. I go more in depth, but this woman just prayed over me, and I heard God say it was done, and I heard him tell me to just give it to him. And I had been told, like, oh, just give it to God, give it to God. Like, that's cute, but what does that mean? How? Like, I felt like I thrived off of controlling everything around me and keeping up this really nice facade of, I'm in control, I can handle it, I can fix it, I can do all the things, when really what I was trying to control wasn't my piece to control at all. And so I walked away from the altar, still crying, still scared and feeling fear, but just deciding I was just going to step into what God called me into, which is to give it to him, to focus on myself, to give my husband some room to breathe. And in that, God kind of worked in all these cracks and crevices that were within me, from me carrying all this weight and trying to do it all and fix it all. And all of these areas inside of me where I was feeling anxiety and feeling fearful and feeling completely out of control, God started to pour into me peace and light and redemption. And in that, my husband was given enough space to not feel guilt or shame or like I was nagging him, and to work on himself without me trying to do it for him. And so when I surrendered to God, God truly did work in me and through me to move forward, and then just hope and pray my husband was going to follow me in that and be an example rather than somebody that was chastising him and giving him even more guilt and shame. And so that was 5 years ago already, and I wouldn't be sitting here today if it weren't for that experience. But had I not given it to God, I don't think we would have survived that period together. I don't think we would be together right now. So I'm going to be real with you. Surrender isn't easy, and you're going to feel like you're doing it blindly, because we are blind. We don't know where God is leading us, but we do know we have to give it to Him and trust Him to take it from us and turn it into something good. To take our brokenness, to take our fear, to take our anxiety, to take our worry, our criticism, our doubt, and take that off of us so that we can walk forward in faith, knowing He's going to do the healing and the redeeming and the fixing that we can't do ourselves. So surrendering is a process. It's a journey. It's a one step at a time. Sometimes it might look like giving up on a dream we've held on to for years. It might look like a closed door. It might look like saying no to an opportunity that doesn't align with God's will. Other times it might be about choosing peace over panic and choosing God's voice over the world's noise. One of the most powerful moments of surrender in the Bible comes from Jesus Himself in the Garden of Gethsemane. Before He went to the cross, He prayed to His Father and said, "Not my will, but yours be done." Jesus, in His humanity, didn't want to go through the suffering. He knew what was coming, but He surrendered to the Father's will, trusting that God's plan was greater than His own. And it literally changed the entire world and every single person in it. As women of faith, we are called to follow that same example of surrender, even when it's hard and even when we don't understand and we don't have perfect clarity. We're called to let go of our control and trust God's will for our lives is far more beautiful, fulfilling, and impactful than anything we could ever achieve on our own. I want you to reflect on what you're holding on to and need to surrender to God. So when we're done with this episode and you hop off the podcast, get a notebook or a journal or write it down. Or even better yet, you can hop onto Amazon and download, if you have Kindle Unlimited, you can download my book, 10 Days to Peace, or order the paperback, where I will actually walk you through guided journal prompts so that you can figure out, what am I holding on to that's a false sense of control? What do I need to give to God? And then how do I do that? Surrender isn't a passive process. It sounds passive, like, oh, I'm just going to give it all up and be on my way, but it's actually a very active process. We do it through intentionality, through reminding ourselves, through working on ourselves, through focusing on what we can control and bettering ourselves that way. Okay, we're working in collaboration with God. So here's a really simple prayer I just want to share with you today that you can pray whenever you're struggling with surrender. God, I trust you with my life. I surrender my plans, my dreams, my fears, and my will to you. Help me to let go of control and trust that you have a perfect plan for me. Guide me, Lord, and give me peace as I follow you. In Jesus' name, amen. As we end today's episode and you begin to reflect on what it is you need to give over to God, remember, friend, you don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders. Surrendering to God is the greatest act of trust you can offer, and He is more than capable of handling it all. He is more than capable of having it all figured out already. He is more than capable of carrying that weight. Stop trying to do it on your own. I hope this episode is a blessing to you. I'm looking forward to episode 3, where we're going to talk to someone very near and dear to my heart. And we're going to go into a series of listening to other women that have had experiences of surrendering to God, what that looked like for them, what were the painful parts of that, and where did it bring them today. So I'm really excited to dive into the next couple of episodes where you can hear other people's testimony of surrendering and how it changed their lives. I will see you over in episode 3. Until then, don't forget to do that actionable step of writing down what you need to surrender and being mindful and intentional in that. I'll see you soon. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of The Called and Courageous Christian Woman. I hope you felt poured into, encouraged, and empowered to keep moving courageously forward in your faith and calling. Be sure to stay connected with me on social media for more inspiration and updates. Any events, courses, or links mentioned in today's episode can be found on my social media accounts. You can find me on Instagram at writtenby_Britton and Facebook at Britton McHale George. I'd love to stay connected to my listeners, so be sure to find me there. And if you've enjoyed today's episode, I'd be so grateful if you'd take a moment to leave a review. Your feedback helps others find this podcast and is the biggest way you can contribute to my mission of reaching women who are searching for a peace-filled, purpose-driven, and unapologetic life. I hope you found this episode to be a blessing for you. Until next time, God bless.